Hey everybody, I'm using my iPad FaceTime camera to do this. I'm hoping it works out. I've never tried this, so we'll see. So I want to chat a little bit about portfolios and standards. I've had a couple of inquiries, and this is one of the problems with online courses because the work of the course is laid out in front of you, and it's easy to look ahead and become overwhelmed. And so I wanted to put some distance between us and that final portfolio. But I also want you to keep it in mind as well because we have 4 RAPS activities that we'll be doing. The first one is due September 25th, so it is coming up relatively soon. So I just want to talk a little bit about what the expectations are for understanding standards and portfolios in this course. All teachers entering student teaching or in student teaching, depending on the pathway you're in, must construct a teacher portfolio in which they show that they understand the Maine teaching standards. And I'm going to talk about those in just a little bit because there's a little bit of confusion about what the Maine teaching standards are. In EDU 250, we start our portfolio. So for secondary ed folks and elementary folks, this is particularly important. Special ed students, they're not required to have a beginning portfolio going into student teaching, but it's always great to have something to take with you. So even if you're in the special ed program, you're still going to construct a beginning portfolio here in 250, and you can take it with you to student teaching. Now the standards that special education students adhere to are a bit different than the Maine teaching standards. They've adopted more of the special ed ones. But nonetheless, this is still good work, so you have to do it for this course, so you might as well take it with you as you move through your coursework. In any event, in this course, we are going to have 4 RAPS activities, which are reflective activities in your portfolio, where you get to choose a standard that you would like to address, and then complete an activity that you can then put in your portfolio. So in your book, you'll see these little sections after each part of the book about various RAPS activities, and they give you 10 possibilities. You can choose any one you want. Okay? What I'm asking is that you choose a different standard for each one of those 4. So at the end of this course, you'll have 4 activities that can go into your portfolio to demonstrate your understanding of each one of those 4 standards you choose. You do not have to have something for every standard in this course. Okay, that's not the idea. The idea is to start building your portfolio and slowly. And it may be as you continue through the courses, you add more to the particular standards that you demonstrate in this course, because this is a beginning course, and you may decide that you need further artifacts and so forth and so on. Okay, so let me talk a bit about the standards. The state of Maine had what was called 10 Maine teaching standards, and these were homegrown. These were created by people here in Maine. But last year, the State Department, the Department of Education, adopted new standards. And those standards now are the INTAST standards. I know it looks backwards to you, but here's the document. You have a link to this document, okay? There are 10 standards here, and they're extensive standards. The standards give you an anchor standard, okay? And then they give you performance indicators, indicators for essential knowledge, and indicators for critical dispositions. And so you need to decide what in that standard that you are addressing in your RAPs, okay? Because you can't possibly address every single one of them. All right, and so that looks like this. So you've got the highlighted pages, okay? All right, and then the state of Maine particularly felt that technological information understanding is really important for teachers in the state of Maine, because we give laptops to all our middle school students, and many of our elementary schools are now putting computers or iPads into the hands of students. Most high schools provide either one-to-one or one-to-many laptops, and so it's vital for teachers to understand technology. And by the way, here's a plug for my EDU 380 Literacy and Technology class that really will get you, into the technology and how to use it. And so they added on an 11th standard, okay? So the Maine teaching standards now are those 10 INTAST standards. And the 11th standard is this. It's the NETS-T. And this particular standard, actually, there's 5 NET standards, but the state has folded those under one anchor standard, number 11, okay? So there are 11 standards for the state of Maine, and that last one is inclusive of the 5 NETS standards. and I hope that makes sense to you. And because the state has not updated their website, they still have the old standards up there. It's easier for me to give you these two documents, okay? The INTAS standards was developed by the Council of Chief State School Officers. So it's a consortia who developed these. These are not national standards, okay? They were developed by school leaders, this group. It's the same group that is developing the Smarter Balance Assessment. All right. And then the NET standards was developed by technology people, okay? So they're not national standards, okay? Were developed by particular groups. And the state of Maine now has 11 teaching standards. The first 10 are the INTAS standards. The last one is that NETS-T. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. Now in your book, in my effort to save you money, I did not upgrade the textbook this year. You're still using an older version. It's 3 years old now, and I realize that that's reflected in what's in your book. So in your book, on page 100, it gives you INTAS standards for licensing beginning teachers. And these are outdated. They have been changed. But I went through and I did a cross list. So we can still use these and use the wraps. But what I've done is I've taken each one of those principles that are no longer principles, they're learning standards, and I've cross-listed them. And I've given you a document that does that. So for instance, Principle 1, knowledge of subject matter, is really standard 4. And Principle 2, human development and learning, is really standard 1. So you need to cross-reference those, okay? So, for example, in this particular section, when you get to the wraps, if you choose 1.6, which is INTAS Principle 6, communication skills, you need to look over here and see that's really INTAS Standard 8 now, okay? So a little bit of maneuvering on your part, but you do have the cross-reference. So you can just take a pencil and write beside each one of these standards on this yellow page, which is what I've done. You can see I've put numbers here. So these are the actual standards now. The language is much the same, but it's just a different number, okay? So just keep that in mind as you're choosing your wraps, okay? All right, and so in terms of the wraps, there's a bunch of different possibilities here, and you get to choose whichever ones you want to do. For instance, there's one called Multiple Intelligence Bingo, where it asks you to visit classrooms. Now, I know that's not possible for all of you to visit classrooms, but there are other activities that ask you to do other things. One is to create a bulletin board, okay? Another one is to create a lesson plan. Another one is to read a book, okay? So there's lots of different ideas, okay? So you choose the one you want to do. And then you're going to complete the activity, and then create the artifact, and then write your reflection, okay? So you're going to do this 4 times this semester, and the first one is due September 25th. For instance, I'm going to look at the novel read, because if you have already looked at the other video, my multiple intelligence says I'm word smart. So this one says, great teachers have an incredible ability to care really deeply about children. Such teachers learn about their students, hold high expectations for them, and fully appreciate the diverse cultural perspectives and learning styles. One marvelous way to understand youngsters is to read literature about the challenges they face. The right books will not only inspire you, but also expand your awareness of diverse learners. This is the activity. It says, maybe this is a wrap activity you will save for spring vacation or a beach-based holiday. Well, I don't think so. Any beach days coming up in Maine. Or let this be a change of pace from your textbook and research papers. Your education faculty likely have additions to this book list. Pick a book and dig into it. And it gives you a whole list of books here. These are great books, by the way. So you just read the book and kind of really reflect on it. So the artifact is lessons from literature. After reading one of the selections or a book of your choice, with a schooled education theme, write a book review that focuses on lessons and themes from the book that can be applied to the classroom. The goal of this review is not only to assess the book's strengths and weaknesses, but also to extract lessons about the effective and culturally responsive teaching practices. So that would be the artifact that you would create. The reflection then comes next. What did you learn from reading this book? Did you unlearn or abandon any misconceptions after your reading? Can you identify implications for your classroom? Would you assign this book to your students to suggest it for a faculty book club? How would you assess student learning? your own understandings. Include your book report and reflection in your portfolio. So you're going to have the artifact, the reflection, and you're going to submit it to me as a quiz grade, and then you're going to put it into your final portfolio. So that's one example. There are 10 activities, and every quarter there'll be another 10 that you can choose from. All right, so you can be thinking about those, and you can look ahead if you want to. I mean, into the other wraps, and maybe start to map out which ones you want to do and which ones you want to do when. That's what I would do anyway. I would sort of plan it ahead. But you can do it off, at each one as they come along too, as far as that goes. Okay, and so final portfolios, what do they look like? Again, I don't want you to panic on this one because we're going to do an electronic portfolio, but I don't want to throw all this at you the second week of school. You'll be running away screaming. So don't worry about the final portfolio right now. Just be thinking about the wraps. Familiarize yourself with the standards, and you have links to them in one of those tabs. I can't remember which one, but you'll find it, I'm sure. And email me with any questions or call me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions. But don't stress and worry about that final portfolio yet. We've got 14 weeks to get to that. And I'll be doing some more videos about how to construct a portfolio. I'll give you examples and models and so forth and so on. Okay? Now the other thing I want to address is that there are learning outcomes for this particular course as well, and those are Maine Teaching Standards 2, 3, and 9. Those standards will be demonstrated. You'll demonstrate your understanding of those standards through the work we do in the course of the semester. And so you don't have to worry about that. That's kind of up to me, that I look at and see if you're meeting those learning outcomes. You can, however, include those in your portfolio as well. So your multiple intelligence survey you do this week and your reflection on that may be something that could be included in one of those standards, particularly the diversity standard, and that you understand that you are beginning to understand how children learn differently and the various kinds of activities one might have to use for those. So there's lots of stuff there to think about, but I don't want you to worry about those standards 2, 3, and 9 at this point. We'll talk more about those later. But do be thinking about the wraps, and do be thinking about which one you'd like to do for each time. Familiarize yourself with the standards. I would read them thoroughly, including the front material, because there's a lot of good stuff there. It will really help you. And these are the standards which you will be held accountable for in your student teaching. All right? And for secondary ed folks, at the end of your student teaching, you're going to have to defend your portfolio. You're going to say, how you met each standard and how we know that. So it's important to get started early. And that's one of the reasons I really encourage students to take 250, because we do this other work that really helps you to move forward in your educational path. Okay, I think that's all on this one. Again, I'm talking way too much, folks, but I know there are questions, and I want to be able to answer those. So please, if you have questions about anything I've said today, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. And some more talk about portfolios will be forthcoming, but don't stress about it now. And next week, I'll add a little bit more about the wraps, just to remind you. But you can be thinking about it. I know some of you have very busy lives with young children and and spouses and partners, and you're doing lots of stuff. So yeah, I'm okay with you looking ahead, but I just don't want you to feel overwhelmed, and I don't want you to start projects that haven't been fully explained yet. So with that, have a great afternoon.